We find at the beginning of this week's parasha, the Torah says, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva, Vayelech Harana. That Yaakov left from Beersheba and he came to Haran. Rashi quotes the Chazal that says, Lo yatzarich l'chtov ela Vayelech Yaakov Harana. We already know that he was in Beersheba. Just say that he came to Haran. Why does the Torah have to mention the Yetziah, the leaving? Rashi explains, L'magid she'yetziat tzadik min hamakom asar roshem. When a tzaddik leaves a place, it makes a indelible impression. Shebizman shat tzadik ba'ir, when the tzaddik's in the city, hu hoda, he is the splendor, hu ziva, hu adara. Yatza misham panah hoda, panah ziva, panah adara. V'chein v'tetzi min hamakom by Sefer Ruth. So the Torah has to go out of its way to talk about the Yetziah, to tell me this important lesson of the Yetziah of the Tzaddik. There are other interpretations that are brought down. I wanted to focus on one of them, and that is one of the Beis Halevi. The Beis Halevi, dealing with this question of Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik, the great-grandfather of Rav Soloveitchik, who lived from 1903 to 1993. The Beis Halevi says, quoting Rashi, that there's a necessity to tell me that he left because the leaving and the going were necessary. Meaning, the Yetziah, that Yaakov was going to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Kibbut Avim. It's not only the Halicha, but it was also the Yetziah. He explains that Rivka told him, look, Hinei Esav, Achicha, your brother Esav is going to come to try to kill you. Now get up and leave. Kum brach lecha alavan. The kavanah was not to be Beersheba, but it was actually to leave. It was the Yetziah, that's the Vayetze Yaakov, to fulfill the mitzvah of Kibbut Avim. And the Yitzchak, this was what? The Halicha. Shelo yikach isha b'mnot Canaan. Go kum lech paden aram and kach lecha isha b'mnot Canaan. The tzivoy here was the Halicha. And therefore, it's the Yetziah and the Halicha that are both intrinsically important to be mekayim both the Kibbut Av and Im. This message is also fleshed out in the Midrash. The concept, the Midrash here, Midrash Rabbah Sam Ches Yud Gimel, explains the Beis Halevi, quotes Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that explains the pasuk that's talking about Galut. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva of Maisa Avot Sima Lebanim, that this is a harbinger, this is for a window for us to understand the purpose of Galut. There's a Yetziah and there's a Halicha. The Yetziah, Vayetze Yaakov, he explains, is not a punishment. It's the idea that when we leave, when we have Galut, Iker, let me read from you a little bit of the Beit Halevi, Iker Kavanat HaGalut HaYetziah Eretz Yisrael, is that you shouldn't just be in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael B'Kedusha cannot tolerate Ovrei Aveira, can't tolerate sinners. It's an Eretz that has permeated with God's presence. And therefore, it's not a punishment, it's just a natural consequence not to be able to be in Eretz Yisrael. Vayetze Yaakov, it is to leave. When you are not in Eretz Yisrael, there is a certain level of Yetziah, part of Galut, part A. But people would think that that's it. You leave to Eretz Yisrael and you have Galut, and then you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't care anymore. That's the Vayelech Harana. Vayelech Harana, the Midrash says it's Milashon Charon Af, that God's still angry. If he doesn't care anymore, you don't have the anger. The Vayelech is Milashon Charonav, to say, do not think that God has just left you in the Galut and is not caring at all about you, but he still cares. And there's the actual Halicha is intrinsic also. I thought just in general, both of these messages are telling us just not only in the Prat about the importance of Kibbut Avim, understanding Galut, that is not only the Yetziah, but the actual idea of the Halicha, that God wants you to be there in the Halicha and understand where you're in the Galut to come back to Eretz Yisrael. But just in general, our value of understanding that should be our constitution, it should be our mantra, which is Da me'ayin bata ula'ana ta'olech. Your Yetziah has to have where you're going, where you're leaving from, has to be rooted Da me'ayin bata, to know where you're coming from, where your source is. And that should shape your halicha. Your halicha of where you're going should be with purpose. And shouldn't just be that I'm just stam leaving or just stam going. But rather, we can learn from this parasha that each one intrinsically, whether it's in Kibbut Avim, whether it's talking about the Galut, or any other message, that when we're leaving something, we understand that we're leaving with a purpose. And when we're going somewhere, that also has a purpose. Shabbat Shalom.